Of course, the next deck on this playlist is going to be Rain Dance, the boogeyman of early Pokemon TCG. And for good reason, given the right setup, Rain Dance is incredibly difficult to deal with as early game as it can get it set up. Potentially, you're able to breeder from Squirtle into Blastoise on turn 2. As soon as Blastoise hits the field, you can use Professor Oak to get a handful of water energy, drop them all onto there, and suddenly you've got a 100 HP stage 2 Pokemon dealing 60 damage on turn 2 or 3. So really, Blastoise doesn't even need a partner Pokemon for this deck. You could run solo Blastoise. The problem with that being that Blastoise is weak to Electabuzz and Zapdos. So ideally, you do give Blastoise a partner with another water Pokemon that isn't weak to Lightning. And you already know what that water Pokemon is from the thumbnail, so let's get into the deck list. The biggest weakness of this deck is going to be your basic Pokemon. So let's start out with Squirtle, which only has 40 HP, meaning that it is an easy target very early game. If your opponent has plus powers and gust of wind in their early setup, then you might want to have, a couple of Squirtles out onto the field just in case. That way you are able to evolve them as quickly as possible. Only running one copy of Wartortle in here. It's just kind of in there for if you cannot get the breeders, or if, maybe a couple breeders are in your prizes. It's kind of just like a failsafe, but it does have 70 HP, so it is a good backup for reinforcing your Squirtles, I guess. What you're really shooting for is a turn 2 Blastoise, where on your second turn, when you can evolve a Squirtle, you just hit it with a breeder and evolve straight up into Blastoise and start rain dancing away. Now the other liability, which is even bigger, is your Magikarp, because it's only got 30 HP and is also weak to lightning like Squirtle. So it's going to be a huge target for Electabuzz. Not so much your Zapdos early game, but even a Hitmonchan with a plus power is going to be able to OHKO a Magikarp the first turn that it attacks, really. And with Rain Dance, that's where a lot of your opponent's prizes are going to come from, is just from Magikarps and Squirtles that you have to put on the bench and leave for a turn before you can evolve up into them. We're using Gyarados in this deck. It's not going to be dealing as hefty of damage as Blastoise can, but it is energy efficient. Dealing 50 damage for only 3 energy is pretty good. You don't have to load it down with 5 energy like you would with Blastoise to get that maximum damage. You can just go ahead and be dealing very efficient damage quickly. Gyarados is maybe my favorite card out of base set, probably because I used to speed run the Game Boy TCG game by just running Seaking and Gyarados together. But as I was saying earlier, this deck's early setup is all about just getting the cards that you need into your hand as quickly as possible to cover the liabilities of your Squirtles and Magikarps just sitting open on the field. And to do that, we're running a full playset of Oak and 3 copies of Bill. That way, like on turn 2, you need the breeder in hand. And in order to do that, if you have to discard whatever's left in your hand to draw 7 more cards, get very close to decking yourself out. That's just what it's going to take. The imperative with this deck is get Blastoise out there, evolve your Squirtles and Magikarps as soon as possible. And if you're able to do that, there's not a whole lot your opponent can really do in response. Yes, Zapdos is going to be a threat to Blastoise, but as far as Gyarados goes, there's not a whole lot of grass Pokemon being used in the metagame. And 100 HP powerhouses like Blastoise and Gyarados are pretty tough to deal with, especially when they get powered up with water energy as quickly as Rain Dance will allow. To further assist with getting the exact cards you need when you need them, I've got a full playset of Computer Search, a full playset of Pokemon Breeder because it is so imperative, and then we're also running a full playset of Super Energy Removal and 3 copies of Super Potion, because this deck doesn't care about discarding energy. Rain Dance lets you attach as many per turn as you can get into your hand, and so to use that to your full advantage and to the full disadvantage of your opponent, you can make sure that you're discarding energy off of their Pokemon constantly, which can also help keep your Squirtles and Magikarps alive. You're making it so that they can't attack, but also you're healing up your own Pokemon that already have 100 HP, which is quite bulky for base set only. But that Super Potion is going to keep them alive even longer, so that your investment that you've made by discarding so many cards to get the cards you need into your hand is actually worth it. Gyarados and Blastoise both have very high retreat costs, so 3 copies of Switch, a full playset of Energy Retrieval because why not have another method to get water energy into your hand? With Rain Dance, water energy in your hand is as good as water energy on the field as long as you've got a Blastoise out. And then 2 copies of Item Finder so that you can recycle trainers as needed. Most of the time it's gonna be for Super Potion or Super Energy Removal late game, just to help disrupt your opponent even more, especially if you've lost part of your setup. Your Blastoise got knocked out or something along those lines. If you need to stall for just a second, because one other big weakness of this deck, because you are cycling through your deck and milling yourself so much, you can lose traction really quickly. This deck ramps up very quickly, but if it can't keep that momentum going, it can fail pretty quickly. Topping off with 14 water energy doesn't seem like a lot for Rain Dance, but you do have a full playset of energy retrieval. So I've already mentioned that this deck can struggle against Zapdos because Zapdos can OHKO your Blastoise. Getting rid of the Rain Dance element from a Rain Dance deck can like really mess up the momentum of Rain Dance, but Zapdos decks do pack another common menace to Rain Dance, which is just Voltorb, especially if those decks are running plus power, because then a Voltorb is going to be able to knock out a Magikarp its first turn attacking. And no matter what type of Electrode build it is, even if they're not running Lightning Energy, Voltorb can still hit those Squirtles and Magikarps for weakness. Not to mention that Electrode builds can ramp up just as quickly as Rain Dance. Starting on turn 2 when these Voltorbs start evolving and instantly turning into double rainbow energies. Rain Dance actually has a great matchup against Damage Swap because it deals damage so quickly and in such immense amounts that Damage Swap can't really handle it. Because remember, you don't have Mr. Mime in this format. And even though Arcanine is a lot of the times fast enough to get the jump on Rain Dance still has a natural type advantage over it, and so, 8 times out of 10, you're gonna not only outspeed Arcanine, but completely flatten it. As far as Haymaker goes, Rain Dance doesn't have a whole lot of problem with it. One of the reasons is because Gyarados is resistant to fighting, and it isn't weak to Electabuzz, even though Squirtle and Blastoise are, so, it can be a little give or take depending on who has the faster, more solid setup, but the same could be said about mirror matches, where when it's Rain Dance against Rain Dance, it's really just who sets up more quickly. And that's another archetype down for base set only. You guys are probably familiar with a lot of these cards, but hopefully there's still a few surprises in store in upcoming videos, as I am going to keep uploading some more base set only decks. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and as always, thank you for watching, liking, subscribing, all the YouTube stuff. Have yourself a great day. I'll see you next video. Bye-bye.